Hey, good evening, UNV501. Andy Fowler here. I'm actually coming to you live from my podcasting studio in Hilton, New York. It's called the 259 Studio. I hope your day is going just as well as mine. Up here in upstate New York, we have a couple inches of snow on the ground. About a foot fell in the last 24 hours. If you listen carefully, you can probably hear the humming of snowblowers in the background. But I'll try to talk loudly. The reason why I'm coming to you guys live from the 259 studio, where me and a couple of my buddies come together each week to do a hour-long podcast, because this project rings pretty true and home to me. Dispositions on education. When I saw the checklist after I read through them, I strongly agreed with all of them, and I'm sure that's the case with anybody who truly goes into education for the right reasons. But the reason why I chose to come to you from the studio, other than because I have the microphone and everything all set up down here already, is the disposition I agree most with is educators should be committed to the profession of teaching and learning. And I found the best teachers are also the best students. This podcast that I set up about 3, 4, 5 months ago now, I knew nothing about going in. I had to teach myself how to operate a soundboard, how to do podcast research, how to advertise for a quote unquote non for profit. We don't make money on this podcast. But I took on this challenge because I wanted to learn. And being a teacher, we have to try new things. We have to find what avenues we enjoy, especially in our case, it's a bunch of guys who sit around, we spread good messages on what happened in our local community, and what have you. Outside of the school day, this gives me a perfect platform, or soapbox, if you will, to get up here and not just teach and preach, but to actually learn and listen and take phone calls from community members and do interviews and things that I didn't go to school for. I'm not a communication. I went to school for education, not communication. And I think one of the things I enjoy the most is I'm not afraid of making mistakes when I'm behind this microphone. It's just a podcast. And if I take that mentality into my classroom and say, it's okay. You've never done this before. You didn't spend thousands of dollars in 4 years in college and a couple more years trying to obtain your master's degree. To become a teacher, or in the student's case, to become a student, you're new at this. Let's give it a try. And if we make mistakes, we all fail. And I can't tell my students honestly to do that if they don't see me doing that myself. I also believe one disposition I stand strongly with is teachers understand the effect of community involvement and servant leadership as it applies to welfare of the others in the educational setting. Community is so huge, especially in the later elementary and middle school years when students start to feel self-worth and why we're here and community. And this is typically the schools I've worked in, this is where they're put into teams, academic teams with the same teachers and students. But the effect of community, whether it's community as in their school, the nurses, the janitors, the lunch monitors, the bus drivers, or community as in the place they live, the police department, the fire department, their local, maybe their mayor or town board, for an example. And then the other disposition is educators should model integrity by words and actions. Educators need to be role models 24/7. Even during the summer months, you can't go out in public and make a fool of yourself. You're representing a school and you're representing yourself and the future students that you may have down the line. These three dispositions hit very close to home to me, past experience with former teachers that I've had and have worked with. Dispositions I need to work on myself are educators should recognize that reflection combined with experience leads to growth as a professional. I've only worked in public school. This is my third school year now. This is my first year being a teacher. It's a learning experience. Every day I learn something, and that's to my benefit. I have to sit back, realize, hey, I don't know everything, but I can figure it out, and I could learn from the best, the people who have the experience in the field, and really observe and go that route. Get better every day, and that's something that I tell myself. It's okay. You're going to get better from this. This experience, this one student will help me with another student down the line, whether it's tomorrow or 10, 15 years from now. And the second disposition I need to work on is educators should be sensitive to individual learning and social needs of students and embrace the cultural diversity of the community. I mentioned this, I've worked in school districts for 3 years. This is my first year as a classroom teacher. Just like the other disposition I need to work on, it's only going to get better with experience. When students throw you a bone, currently I don't have the experience to go through the file folder in my head and say, I need to do this right now. I do need to take some think time. So like this disposition, I do need to work on this as well. And what does a professional educator look like? In my eyes, what standards guide your thinking and actions? It's someone who cares more about everyone than themselves. I think all teachers need to do that, and I think most teachers do. If you care about everyone else, whether it's your students, whether it's your classroom, whether it's your team of teachers, your principal, your community, I think that teacher is set up for success. As soon as that teacher thinks it's all about me, that's when they're wrong. Especially teachers, and I work with a couple here, a couple teachers who go into the education field just to become coaches. I think that's the totally wrong reason to go into the teaching field. You can coach, that's great. But I want you to be a teacher first. Those 8 hours in the classroom is where your priority is. And then what guides your standards? They just have to be open-minded about trying new things and working with everybody. And if it means that you're doing the most work, that's probably a good thing. And I know I do a lot of the work, especially in teamwork. It's one of the things that it's all about the team. There's no I in team, and there's a reason why there's no I in team. Thank you for joining me in the 259 studio. Check out my podcast while you're at it, www.the259show.com. I really enjoyed this class. I enjoyed reading all the posts every week, and I look forward to seeing what Grand Canyon University has in store for us. Thank you very much. Have a great week.